clear of the closing doors, please.
All right, here we go. Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I am your host. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning into SST, Apple Podcasts app, Spotify, YouTube. You know where to find us if you're hearing me say these words, so thank you all for listening. Joining me today, the one and only, number one in the SST picks competition, Cody O. Cody O'Connor, what's up, dude? Not your best week of picks, but you're still running away with that first place spot.
Very fortunate that I didn't post an 0-3 this week after the 3-0. So the 1-2s could keep you afloat. Obviously, we prefer the winning weeks, but a weird week, a tough one to cap right now, and it kind of feels like the NFL at large. So I'll take an above 500 record and run with it, and no complaints out of me with that.
Yeah, I wish I could say the same because I'm off an 0-3 week, Cody, and I followed it up with an 0-2 week. I'm sorry, a 1-2 week, and that's just not where you want to be. However, all things being considered here, we sit here, the four of us, me, you, Pat Boyle, and Mark Shanlugan, after 10 weeks at 59, 59, and 2. And that's just apropos for where we are in this NFL season. It's been an up and down season. I think I went on 4 straight winning weeks, followed up by 0-3, 1-2. And that's just where it feels like right now. You are 17-13. I am the caboose at 13, 16-1. Pat Boyle inched above 500 this week. So we're there. We're right there. And frankly, after 10 weeks, you're 500 as a total group of 4. I think we're in an okay spot. Last year at this time, we were well above 500 and ended up below 500. So hopefully this year's a little bit of the opposite and we start cooking, which right now on this very podcast, Cody, we are going to try to truly look at the best teams in the NFL and find out the inner circle of contenders, the outer circle of contenders, and through that process, find some pretenders in the mix as well. But before we do any of that, Cody, I want to quickly just do, and I say quickly because they don't deserve much time, a quick chat about the New York football scene with the Jets and the Giants. I think we all knew the Giants season was over, but you're playing for some pride. You're playing to see what you have on the roster, and they fell on their face. The Jets had a chance to stay in that playoff conversation, and technically they're not out of it yet, but they fell on their face even harder somehow than losing to the Panthers in overtime. So, Cody, New York football's a joke right now, and what is there even to be said at this point about these two teams?
We're on to basketball. The biggest topic of conversation, other than maybe the Knicks, is Juan Soto and MLB free agency. There's no pulse in New York. I think I heard Tierney say something about how there used to be a sense of Giants pride when you walked around. You can feel it. It was palpable. It is gone. I think he has the correct beat on the feeling of the New York Giant fan right now. I know Joe Shane gave a press conference today. I didn't get to listen to it. I saw kind of the highlights of it. Essentially sounds like a sad state, a bunch of excuses, and not really what you're looking for from your GM. And despite all of these things, despite Daniel Jones hopefully playing his last snap, which I was tweeting about during the game, texting you guys, this has to be it. No, this has to be it. All right, now this one's definitely it. And he finished out that game, and I think that's going to be it for him. And it's a sad state of affairs for the Giants. And the craziest thing is I genuinely believe this is a worse season for the Jets than the Giants. It's because of the hope. It's because of the expectation. It's because of every chance that you had to believe. They've just gut punched you. And not even to compete against the Cardinals was embarrassing. They got pushed around. They got smacked around. And it's just MetLife is feeling about as bad as it looks from the outside. The ugliest stadium in football is hosting the ugliest football in the league right now. It's a sad state of affairs.
Well said. I don't even want to add too much because, again, they don't deserve that much of our time. I do get a little melancholy in moments like this, Cody, watching Tyrone Tracy go out there and fumble in overtime, and you think to yourself, did he lead to the end of Daniel Jones, right? Like, you can't think like that, but if you're Tyrone Tracy, you may have done the franchise a big favor trying to help out their prospects of getting a good draft pick, about turning a new leaf at the quarterback position. But at the same time, and I think you and I are on the same page with stuff like this, we know Daniel Jones is a good guy. We know Daniel Jones works hard. We know he's the type of person who you do want to root for, but the type of product he puts on the field is uninspired, right? So you look at Tyrone Tracy with a towel over his head, playing his ass off, playing great ball, probably the brightest spot besides Malik Neighbors of this season on the offensive side of the ball. And he's crying, he's upset, and he probably knows deep down that he just ended Daniel Jones' career in a really weird way. Now, it's not one-to-one. It's not true. He shouldn't feel that way, but you can't help yourself. It's human nature to feel that way. So I felt melancholy. I feel bad for Daniel Jones. At this point, he's getting dumped on in New York, in New Jersey, in California. It doesn't matter. The NFL is dumping on DJ. It's over. It's done. And frankly, it's been time, and it's now truly time for the Giants to move the hell on. And it sucks. That's life. Here we are. How many quarterbacks every year that are drafted in the first round fall on their face? We're watching Caleb Williams, number 1 overall pick, fall on his face, whether it's his fault or not. You just saw Bryce Young. It looked like a miracle that he's having fun playing football for the second week in a row. That's his first time in his career, and he's a number 1 pick from just last year. So it's a cutthroat world. It's a tough world. DJ, I want to say we love you. I think we do. But at the end of the day, this has not worked, and it's over. It's been an okay run at best. And sayonara, I guess, right? Happy trails, as Tony Kornheiser would say back in the PT. Well, I'm sure he still says it on PTI. I just don't tune in that frequently. So it sucks, Cody. It is what it is. And for once in our lives, we might see the Giants actually stink properly down the stretch. Or Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock come in and actually win some dumb games down the stretch, and they still end up drafting 8th overall. And that's where we are as a Giants. You and I also both said before the season started, it's going to be a lot easier to have a disappointing season with the Jets than it is the Giants, because the Jets were favored to win the AFC East. The Jets had true contender expectations. They have Aaron Rodgers, who's an aging quarterback. So for all that negativity I just said about the New York Giants, Cody, you can sit here and make a straight-face argument that the Giants are in a better position moving forward than the New York Jets, because the Jets are going to keep trying to win the rest of this year. How much can they turn over to make this team better? What are they going to do at coach? Is the defense still strong? I don't know. There's a lot of I don't know about the New York Jets, and what you do know is that they're not playing with the gumption and the execution. Sorry. They're not playing with the execution and effort that is necessary to be a winning team. So the Giants are the Giants. They stink, but now it's over. The Band-Aid has been ripped off. The Jets Band-Aid is hanging on by the littlest bit of adhesive that remains on the edge of that Band-Aid, stuck to one hair on the edge of your arm. And yet you're still not sure what this team's going to look like in the future.
I mean, you said it. They have an old quarterback that's not getting any younger, and they just don't have answers. And it's not, again, we're not saying the Giants do, but the difference is this was supposed to be it for the Jets. He was supposed to be the final piece. And when you start losing games this way, the way they both are, you have questions everywhere now. And that was the fear I had with the Giants coming into the season. And it's, of course, being discussed because this is how it goes. You're 2-8. That's what happens. Now the GM and the coach are both in question for their jobs, and that's going to be a conversation through the rest of the year, pretty much no matter what they do. And that was my fear when it came into this year, was I did think it would be bad. I did not think that Jones would last past this year at least. But the fear is, I think you have a good coach in Dable. I think maybe Shane is figuring it out. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit more timid on saying that Joe Shane is for sure an answer, but I do really like Dable. And we were talking about this the other day, but I think there's only 2 people that if you're going to fire Dable, I'm okay with getting, and it's Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel. You have to have an answer to, we want to fire Brian Dable. Well, what's the answer? Who's the replacement? If it's one of those 2 guys, I'll live with that. Actually, I'd be happy about it. But other than that, I think Dable's a good coach and is going to get an unfair shake, and it's the fear I had when we made this podcast preview in August, and it's coming to fruition now.
It is absolutely coming to fruition. On the coaching front, I'll just add this. I'd like to see Dable get another chance with a new regime. And I don't mean regime as front office. Shane, I'm kind of like, show it to me, right? Give or take 50-50 here. Maybe give him another chance to see what happens with the different quarterback situation. I want to see Dable as a Giants head coach with a different quarterback. On the Belichick and Vrabel front, you could miss me with Bill Belichick. I'm sorry. He's doing a media tour this year. He's fun. He's laughing. He's got a hot young girlfriend. That's awesome. I don't care. We watch what happened in New England at the end there. Is Bill Belichick going to come in here and give up personnel rights? Is he going to come in here and not buy the groceries to take his buddy Parcells' line from back in the day? I don't think so. And frankly, this team's not ready to win next year. Even if Dable stays and we draft the best quarterback in the draft and we have 2 other good draft picks and a free agent signing, they're not winning the Super Bowl next year. There's no way in hell, right? Look at the Jaden Daniels-led Commanders. They're a great story. Are they on the inner circle of contenders right now? We're going to talk about that, and that's a tease for about 10 minutes from now. But they're not. That's a spoiler. So even if the Giants come out and nail the draft next year, nail free agency, are they a Super Bowl contender? I don't think so. I don't need to see Bill Belichick come out into New York and drag along and maybe do okay in 1 or 2 years, and then all of a sudden we're looking at a guy, is he really moving this franchise forward? That's not my bet. My bet would be on Mike Vrabel all day, every day, twice on Sundays. I love that guy as a head coach. I think he inspires toughness, effort, energy, the whole nine, and clearly can coach a damn defense. If you could hire a decent offensive coordinator, I would buy in on that all day long. But my bet is that Dable does get another chance with this regime, because I think you're selling him a lot short if you don't give him another chance, playing it with his hands tied behind his back with Daniel Jones for a couple of years now. And last year, frankly, without Daniel Jones as well, with worse than Daniel Jones, believe it or not.
And
So,
year one with the playoffs with Daniel Jones, the absolute best we've ever seen from him, and it wasn't even close. So I agree. I agree. I think that Dable is going to get an unfair shake if he gets fired from this year, but we'll see. That's what happens when you lose.
And I know he's not blameless in this, right? I think there's a lot of Giants fans who want to be critical of Dable. I get it. I just think we've seen enough out of this guy making, chicken salad out of chicken scratch, or whatever the saying is, that he deserves something. Whether it's Shador, Sanders, or Nussmeier, or whatever it is, like, I want to see this guy get a chance to coach a new quarterback in New York.
Agreed.
All right. Cody O'Connor, Pete Kennedy, right here on Subway Sports Talk. You know where to find us if you're listening to us say these words. So let's keep it pushing with our next segment here. And Cody, what I want to do is I want to really, you and I sit here and look at who is on the inner circle and the outer circle of true contendership, right? Because we can talk about, this team is looking frisky, they can make the playoffs. That's cute. That's fine. We always know there's 2 or 3 teams in each conference that stand no chance to make a Super Bowl run. So I really want to flesh out with you who we think those teams are or are not. But before we do that, Cody, this week in particular, week 10, as there's no more excuses about rust. Yes, of course, there's injuries. There's things that are plaguing each team every single week, right? I'm not going to say I don't understand that. However, by week 10, you would expect teams to know their identity. You would expect teams to be playing more sound football on both sides of the ball. You'd expect some teams to know who the hell they are. And I watched all day on Sunday, and frankly, I watched a ton of teams that have no freaking clue who the hell they are, Cody. And I have to ask you, is the product that we're watching in the NFL right now actually good? Or are we just so in love and obsessed with this sport that we're going to call it good no matter what? Because I don't know if I'm watching more than 6 good teams a week. How many good games are we actually watching a week, Cody O'Connor?
Well, I'll tell you what doesn't help is a 3-game 4:00 slate, Roger Goodell, when you have the opportunity for 3 stinkers like you did. And even as a diehard NFL fan, I had red zone off by like 6, maybe 6:30 on Sunday, which is very, very rare for me, but that's how it was. The product is awful. It just is. And if it's not for fantasy and gambling and pools and all the different things that you and I both not only do, I love doing, and I will watch football every Sunday religiously, almost no matter what they put out. I have proven to be that idiot who will sit here on the couch despite the product that they put out, because every now and again it feels like a experiment to see how bad it can be and how many people will watch. That's what it feels like. The Giants last week at 2-7 were in a tie for the 8th pick in the draft. That means 8 teams were playing around the same record as them. 8 teams in the NFL were at that same record, and you could probably argue 4 to 5 more are about as bad, and you could throw the Cowboys in now, especially without Dak for the rest of the year. It's a pretty bad product, and I don't know, obviously, exactly what the reason is. I don't know if they practice less, if the plays are more complicated, but I was thinking about something similar today where I'm thinking the same thing. The product sucks. Why is it? And I think like back 10, 15 years ago when you had Peyton Mannings and Drew Breeses and Phil Rivers and Roethlisbergers and Eli's and all these different guys, obviously Brady. And I always think about how much they seem to do at the line of scrimmage, how much pre-snap reads were going into it. And I wondered if it's the fact that the play is getting called so slowly maybe that by the time that they break the huddle, there's 10 seconds and there's not enough time, or if the quarterbacks are not trained in the same way or are not seeing the same things and making adjustments at the line with the defense. But I mean, you think about the quarterback play and the overall game that we used to see, again, just 10 years ago, it feels like a very different product. It's not a talentless league. I mean, you see these quarterbacks make insane throws, flick of the wrist, 70 yards, off platform, off their back foot, things that you would never teach a kid, that Peyton Manning would only dream of being able to do. But Peyton wouldn't have to do that, and he would never do that. And he was still the sheriff moving the ball as efficiently as you see because of everything he saw pre-snap. And it was something that I thought of, is that different now? And is it a quarterbacks aren't as smart? Is it that D coordinators are so good that they're confusing them? Or is it that they're breaking the huddle so late that they don't have enough time to make adjustments at the line? I don't know the answer, but it's all different things that I see, again, as I sit 8 hours every single Sunday on my couch mindlessly going, wow, this is ugly.
There's so many factors, Cody. You'll hear ex-players. I heard Greg Olson recently talking about how, the youth football in America right now is geared towards 7-on-7. It's geared towards shotgun and making these quick decisions, all this stuff. Like he explained how he coaches his sons, right? And they're like, I don't know, maybe 10 years old or something like that. And in a tournament that I think it was like 85% of the teams didn't take one snap under center, right? And I'm not saying that every team needs to go play under center, but there's something to be said about Russell Wilson, who comes into the Pittsburgh Steelers team with a decent infrastructure. Honestly, their offensive infrastructure was kind of bad, if we're being completely honest. And just doing the simple things well. Anticipatory throws, taking chances when you're supposed to, moving the ball, executing the run game properly. There's something to be said about it, right? And I did a whole thing last week on the podcast, I'm not sure if you heard it, where I went through every single team and talked about, are they happy with their coach and their quarterback? Very simple, right? Yes or no to the quarterback, yes or no to the coach. I can't believe that I'm sitting here today with the negativity that I'm having, when last week I literally went through 18 teams that I said were happy with their coach and quarterback. And now I think two things can be true at once. I'm a big believer in two things being true at once, Cody. And I think there are teams like the Miami Dolphins, for example, who sit here today and say yes with an asterisk because of Tua's health, but they're happy with Tua Tagovailoa as the quarterback. They're happy with Mike McDaniels. But are they putting out a good product every week? No. Right? Even a team like the Houston Texans, who are a surefire yes to the quarterback, yes to the coach right now, are they putting out a good product every week? No, they're not. Right? Like, you're looking up and down the league and you're just seeing a lot of teams that right now say, yeah, we're satisfied with our quarterback. Yeah, we're satisfied with our coach. We're not firing him this year. And yet the product lags behind. Is it because of what you said about the practice stuff? Is it because of the defensive coordinators? Because I'm going to sit here and say, I think the defensive coordinator thing is BS. We have Mel Kiper on ESPN a couple weeks ago saying too high safety should be banned from the league. That's outrageous. That's ridiculous. You're telling me with all these genius offensive coordinators and offensive coaches here, we can't figure out how to beat too high? It's one of the famous coverages of the last 20 years, right? now all of a sudden we can't beat too high. What's going on here? It doesn't make any freaking sense. And you have to start looking at how the game is being called and how the game is being coached, because at the end of the day here, there's not less talent in the league today than there was 20 years ago. These guys are bigger, faster, and stronger. So what does it come down to? It comes down to neutering quarterbacks. It comes down to empowering coaches and not marrying those with the balance that's necessary, right? When you watch the Ravens, you know you're getting a great product. The Ravens might fall short. They might have their worst game of the year, but you know you're watching real football. You're watching a coach in Harbaugh that we all love, watching quarterback in Lamar that even with the playoff struggles, we know is entertaining. You can't say that about the rest of the league. You can't say that about a lot of teams. And that doesn't mean those teams are even bad, Cody. It's just not a good product right now.
Yeah, last night, first of all, sloppy, disgusting game. But I was like hyped up to see Jalen Ramsey go make tackles, because he's one of the few guys who still can form tackle and do it efficiently. And just a couple hours, or no, it was the day before, but you saw Sauce Gardner on that 3rd and 8 try to take a guy with him, and I think it was the tight end McBride, but he just took him for a ride and just threw him off. And Sauce Gardner has been awful this year, but he was one of the premier corners. But it's simple things even like that, like tackling, And maybe that's a rule change or how often, again, the practice thing, but there's one thing that you can't deny, and that's that the product has gone down. And I completely agree that it's not that the talent isn't there. 4.340s, guys who are 280 pounds running 4.5s. Again, the off-platform throws the quarterbacks make. Some of the catches we've seen the last couple weeks, whether that's Devontae Smith or if it's Garrett Wilson or George Pickens. I mean, there's some insane plays that still get made, but those are so far and few between to just sloppiness in between. And even on specialty, like, it's everywhere across the NFL, and I don't know the exact reason, but it's there for sure.
And in a world where analytics is taking over all sports, right? Like, for better or worse, you can argue for baseball, for basketball, for football. A lot of people will argue for worse. I get that. But in basketball with analytics, you're saying, all right, threes are more valuable. Let's get great looks from three and attack the rim, right? The analytical way, shoot more threes, get to the rim more. That's the way to play. Okay. That should create some more exciting plays. Sure. Baseball, more home runs, right? Those are more exciting plays. I think that hurt. And now baseball's kind of finding its way back to a medium here. With the NFL, Cody, I don't understand the analytics because everybody who I hear, who I think is a smart football voice in the world of media, is talking about how explosives are so important, and the team with the highest explosive rates, which is basically runs 15 plus and passes of 20 plus. That's how you get great offensive numbers and great offensive output and all this stuff. And then you're watching teams afraid to push the ball down the field. You're watching teams afraid to make the mistake. I heard Bill Simmons talking with Cousin Sal this week about how there were quarterbacks in the 80s and 90s who were, or I'm sorry, might have been end of 70s and 80s, who were throwing 30 picks a year, right? And obviously you don't want Jared Goff to go out there and throw 5 picks every single game. That would be horrible. I get that. However, the Lions are one of the few teams who put a good product out on the field most of the time. And they're a team that does push the ball and runs the ball effectively. Like, you have to be willing to take risks in this league. And if you're playing safety football the entire time and you don't have a great offensive line and you don't have weapons that are going to turn 3-yard catches into touchdowns, it's just never going to be fun. It's never going to be effective. It's never going to be a good product, right? Like, if you are a certain team that is in the middle right now and you're fighting for your life, what are you doing playing to tie games? What are you doing trying to just nickel and dime yourself for a field goal? You are on the fringe. If you make it, your chance is minimal. If you don't make it, your pick is better. So why are you not sending it a little bit more? Are you trying to protect Kirk Cousins' stats right now? Right? Like, and they're a team that actually pushes the ball a little bit. So I'm picking a bad example here, but I think you get the idea, right? Like, if you're talking about a Bo Nix or a Drake May, sure, they're rookies. Let's be gentle with them. Let's pull them down this path slowly here. But another thing that we love here, Baker Mayfield, perfect example, Cody. He's a
Baker
guy,
moneymaker.
he's pushing the ball, he's making plays, he's taking
Mhm.
chances, and it's a better product watching Baker Mayfield than watching half the other quarterbacks in the league. Because right now, like, you're going up and down. Let's name some names here. Aaron
Okay.
Rodgers, is he fun to watch right now? No.
He is not.
He's not fun to watch. Joe Flacco has become unfun to watch. The Titans, whatever the hell they're doing, not fun to watch, even though they threw a bomb to Calvin Ridley and finally connected on one. Like,
Mhm.
why are we not trying to do more here? Why are we even playing the safety version of offense when you have no chance anyway?
Can I
Go out there and try to make a play.
I want to simplify it as basic as I can get. Some picks are okay, and actually probably a good thing. I used to say it all the time when I'd argue about Eli. I'd be, oh, look how many interceptions he threw. He's not good. You have to take risks and chances because within those interceptions, sometimes you're going to push the ball into the end zone or you're going to get maybe a tip ball and get fortunate, lucky, whatever the case may be. But you need to force the issue. The only quarterback I can think of that's like an all-time great who pretty much didn't throw any interceptions is Rodgers. He's one of the very, very few. Even Brady, Peyton Manning, for Brett Favre is one of the greatest of all time. These guys threw interceptions because they took chances, and they might throw a pick. And yeah, you don't want that. No part of the field is a good field to turn the ball over. We get that. A lot of times you win the turnover battle, you win the game. We get that too. But if you take zero risks and you just go 3 and out and the pressure's back on the defense and they're on the field all day long, well, then you're not getting anything either. So you have to take some risks. Not enough teams do it. Not enough guys do it. And the product is suffering because of it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, unless you're the Chargers right now, who are built on their defense and controlling the ball with a real chance to be a contender, what are you doing?
Talk
What are you
about an
doing?
identity.
Yeah, they have an identity. If we're looking at a team right now that's sitting at 5-5 or 4-6 or whatever it may be, let's push the freaking envelope a little bit here. And I used to crap on Jordan Love before the season. They just came off a bye, so they didn't play this week. Maybe that was a part of it, but like at least Jordan Love's taking shots, and I think he's not flawless by any means, but like he's taking shots, he's pushing the ball. Like no one wants to watch the Saints right now. No one wants to watch the freaking Panthers and the Bears and the Raiders. It's just bad. It's just bad. The Colts are right there in that conversation as well.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I want to be clear about one little thing too. Like not every single quarterback in every single team, because you just brought up the Chargers. That's a great point. We're not saying that they have to do that because they've got their identity. And I'd say the exact same thing about a team like the Steelers. I'm not saying that they always have to, but Russ does throw a moon ball or two almost every single game. And it works
almost
for them.
every quarter, bro.
Right. So it does in some teams, in some aspects, you still have to. But a Chargers is a really good like anti. You have to do that because their identity is so secured in what they're going to do. But get to the playoffs and we'll maybe transition into our real contenders. At some points, the Chargers probably will have to take those risks if they want to make it through the AFC.
And that's true, 100%. And they're getting some better feel for their receiver. So we'll see if they make the inner circle here of contenders. But yeah, I think the frustration came to a head with all NFL fans this week. You saw a absolute showcased phenomenal game on Thursday. You saw two quarterbacks playing at the peak of their powers. You saw defenses making plays despite the high point total, and you saw fun, entertaining football all day Sunday. We saw mostly trash, hot garbage for the most part, if we're being completely honest. And that doesn't mean that one team didn't dominate the other team, but it's all combined. It's not just a one-off. It's like, yeah, Kyler Murray plays a pretty fun brand of football, but guess what? That game was terrible to watch, and probably because of the Jets, if we're being honest. But, all teams have to be considered here. All right, so what we're going to do now, Pete Kennedy, Cody O'Connor, we're going to talk about the inner circle. These teams, generally speaking, are a little bit more entertaining to watch too, which is a nice combination here because we know who they are, right? I don't think any of the teams that Cody and I are going to believe to be in the inner circle, we have questions about what they're trying to do on Sundays. We have an idea of what they're trying to do. So let's start off with the quick ground rules. Inner circle is teams that right now you look at as a Super Bowl contender, a team that if they win their conference and they're in the Super Bowl, you're not sitting here with your jaw on the floor. The outer circle is teams that you say, wow, I really didn't expect them to make that deep of a run, but we knew they had it in them. We knew that they were competitive, that they had good pieces. They just needed to gel a little bit better or whatever it may be, get hot and go on a run, get a little healthy. A lot of different options come into play there. So Cody, off the bat, does that make sense for you? Is that how you define inner and outer circle?
Exactly that. Who would I bet on to win the Super Bowl? Who do I believe has a legitimate chance? Who is a good, fun, frisky team? They're probably like a tier level below. So that's how I'm looking at it.
There you go. So shall we start with the inner? Of inner circles?
Yeah.
Or do we want to just go down and then place them as they go? Because that could be a fun way to do it as well.
Do you want to go by conference/division and do it that way?
Let's do it that way.
You'll see. It gets so quick to be like in, out, 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 out.
It's very true. So let's do it that way. I think that'll be more fun. So
okay,
let's start off with the AFC, and we'll start with the AFC East. I think it's pretty fair to say that the Buffalo Bills are an inner circle team.
Correct. I've got them as one of my 3 AFC inner circle teams.
Pretty easy. I think they're a team that's clearly, flawed at the weapon level of wide receivers with Amari Cooper and Keon Coleman being banged up right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you would say with their health that you feel really good. And frankly, just with Josh Allen being back there and their defense playing pretty well, they're just all the way in.
Yep. Reason number 1, Josh Allen, and the rest follow suit. And they got a pretty good coach over there too.
I would agree. I think McDermott gets no love sometimes because of falling short in the playoffs, but clearly he's doing something right over there. Miami Dolphins, are they out?
Out. Won't make the playoffs.
Jets are out.
Out.
So are the Patriots. Good riddance. Goodbye to those teams because frankly, they're all in different places right now. We know the Dolphins, if Tua's health was different for the entire year, could they be on the outer circle? Possibly. I don't think anyone's putting them on the inner circle either way. And the Jets and Patriots at this point speak for themselves. All right, on to the AFC North, Cody. We'll start off with the Baltimore Ravens because I think we're going to be pretty in lockstep here, even though they're not technically first in the division right now.
Absolute inner circle.
I agree. I think Lamar is probably playing the best football of his career. People are always going to be quick after somebody wins 1 or 2 MVPs to try to find someone else to win it. But if the season ended today, is there anyone else who could be the MVP besides Lamar Jackson?
I'm hoping for Josh Allen because I've got the ticket. I think there is a pathway, and it's probably starting with the Steelers winning the North. If the Steelers beat out the Ravens and the Bills win 13 games, and then you do the whole weapons thing and voter fatigue, that's my pathway for Josh Allen. Okay, Numbers-wise, though, Lamar is clearing everybody.
Yeah, so right now, Lamar is second in the league in passing yards. And granted, some guys have only played 9 games. Like, for example, Geno Smith is at a higher yard per game total than Lamar Jackson, but he has had a bye. So Lamar's second in the league in yards. He's tied for first in touchdowns, has only thrown 2 interceptions, and obviously all the running he does on top of it. It is incredibly hard to find better numbers than Lamar Jackson right now.
Yep. There's no argument numbers-wise. Not right now.
Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm curious what you're going to say here. Are they inner circle or are they outer circle?
There's 3 teams to me in the AFC that are just outer circle, and they're the top of the outer circle for me. It's mostly Russell Wilson based, and it's not to say that he hasn't been good, or it's not the hater Cody that you've seen in years past, because I said before the year started, I thought the Giants should have taken a flyer on him. Obviously, that didn't work out for them. They said sign Drew Lock for $5 million extra, but Russell Wilson is just a little bit more limited than the other 3 quarterbacks, obviously. Steelers defense is absolutely sick. Mike Tomlin, one of the best coaches in the NFL, always gets the best out of his guys. They have an outside chance, but I would be surprised if they're the team to come out of the AFC. And if I'm doing it that way and I'm basing it on, would I bet on them to come out of the AFC? I would not. Maybe that's disrespect. Maybe that's that's probably what the Steelers want to hear. If I'm a Steelers fan and the Steelers Nation, you want to hear the doubt. But I've got them they're the top of the just outside in the AFC tier.
So the odds would pretty much agree with that. They have the 4th best odds in the AFC right now to win the conference. So it goes Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, and then Steelers. But the big jump, the Bills are 3rd with plus 390. The Steelers are plus 1,200 to win the AFC. And I think the big thing with the Steelers here on where they're going to end up is their schedule. So they have Baltimore coming up this week, which is a huge game. Then they have Cleveland, and then Cincinnati, Cleveland again, Philly, Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati. So they have a load of tough games coming up. I think they're probably evenly matched with Cincinnati right now. If we're looking at the look ahead lines, they're probably only favored against Cleveland.
They have, did I first glance here correctly? They have all 6 division games remaining. Is that the way this goes?
They do. They have Baltimore twice, Cincinnati twice, and Cleveland twice. And then their non-division games are Philly and Kansas City.
Like, because you could be like, Cleveland, but Cleveland division game, it is a little bit different. It's a lot more physical, right? Like, it's not an easy win, a bye win, like you would think, I think, as an outer conference or even outer division. That is, and my buddy who's a Steelers fan went through it today. So I did actually kind of know their schedule, but wow.
Yeah, no, it's not looking pretty for their upcoming schedule, but I think the outer circle is the proper placement for them. I agree with you on that front. You just have to see a little bit more offensively from them, and the defense just continuing to stay healthy, right? Like Highsmith is hurt right now. What's his health going to look like, and all that stuff. So they're a good team. I think you know what you're expecting when you watch a Steelers game, which make them watchable. But you also don't expect them to continue to overperform and punch above their weight. But then again, with Mike Tomlin, sometimes maybe you just do. All right. Next team would be the Cincinnati Bengals. Where are you putting them? Are they out? Are they outer circle? Are they inner?
You can't quit. I can't quit this team, Cincinnati Bengals, because even in their losses, they're impressing me. No T. Higgins, and they went for 2, which I thought was the right move, even in the moment, even afterwards, with Zach Taylor and that amazing game against the Ravens. And now that you're looking through the AFC really quickly, there's an absolute pathway, right, for them to make the playoffs, because you're going to likely have one team from the AFC East, one team from the South, the Chargers from the West. And so they're probably battling, because you're saying Steelers, Ravens, even despite the Steelers schedule, you could almost pencil them in, right? But if you're pretty much saying Denver and the Bengals, unless you believe in the Colts or the Dolphins to go on a run, I don't believe in either of those. There's a world where the Bengals sneak in, and I'll say it this way: nobody is going to want to see the Bengals in round one. I'm going to put it as simply as I can. So they are, obviously they can't be in that inner circle, but I don't know. I mean, if they're in and they're playing the Steelers, is that game like a pick 'em? If it's in Pittsburgh?
A classic 1.5. It's a
Right?
1.5, right? Yeah, 100%. I think with the Bengals, if things were equal from a standings perspective, I think they're a better argument for inner circle than the Steelers are.
Yeah.
Because they're literally not in the playoffs as we sit here today. You kind of can't put them in inner circle, and they've been a little inconsistent defensively. And we even know
the thing is Joe Burrow, right? Same thing,
right?
Not same with Josh Allen, because they're 8-2, but that's where the argument starts. Is I believe in this quarterback, and you listen to me. I've been relatively consistent on who I think Joe Burrow is.
Yep, I agree. So they're in the outer circle. Happy to put them there. The Browns, I think we could both agree that they're out. They're in the outer circle. All right, moving on to the now AFC South. The Houston Texans are 6-4. It's not the strongest 6-4. They've had their ups and downs, but would you put them inner circle? Would you put them outer circle? Where do you got the Texans?
Outer circle, below the Steelers, below the Ravens. They are good because I really like Stroud. They're going to look a lot different with Nico Collins. They will not be an easy out. They're probably similar to the Bengals, but the difference being they have a very clear, they're 6-4. Their division feels wrapped up right now. And I hope I'm saying that because I do have a future on them or with them in it, but they feel like they're in the playoffs. So I have them just below the Steelers, I think. Oh, that's tough. As of right now, I think I'd have them just below the Steelers. But somewhat in lockstep with the Bengals, who I'm looking at plus 130. I was trying to find this. Plus 130, the Bengals to make the playoffs right now.
And I think if you look at the odds for the AFC title, Texans are fifth behind the Steelers. They're in front of the Chargers and in front of the Bengals. The Bengals plus 2,000 versus the Texans plus 1,400. If you're a Bengals believer, I think you grab them plus 2,000 right now, or you take them plus 130 to make the playoffs on a more reasonable safe play because that odds is only going down. It's only going down unless they fall flat on their face, which I don't think you or I believe that they will. Especially as they have a history now of just kind of getting better as the season wears on. I'm happy with the Texans in the outer circle. And frankly, they can't be out. They're going to win the division, and they're not good enough to be inner circle, in my opinion, yet. Can we full sweep? Oh, go ahead.
No, would you say that they're the bottom of the outer circle, though, in the AFC?
Through the teams that we've gone through so far, yes.
So say Denver, well, we haven't gone through the West, so I guess we'll wait on that, and then we'll come back around.
Agreed. Okay, so the rest of the AFC South, can we just full sweep the Colts, Titans, and Jaguars and say out, out, out?
Yeah, it would take some heck of a collapse with the Texans having already lost back-to-back games. And I believe they've already beaten the Colts head-to-head, correct?
Yes.
So it would take one heck of a collapse, like I said, for the Texans to not win 4 games and wrap that division up.
And furthermore,
3 games, probably.
Yeah, and furthermore, even if the Colts decide to go on a little run and make the playoffs, I have no faith in them to do anything in the playoffs. So I'm even if the Colts make the playoffs, they're not a outer circle contender in my opinion either. They're clearly not inner. I don't think they're outer, even if they're the 7th seed in the AFC.
Agreed.
All right, Jaguars, Titans, out. Bye. Sayonara. AFC West, Cody, the Kansas City Chiefs are clearly the inner circle. I think just by default, you put them as the number 1 contender because of, being undefeated and Patrick Mahomes and the history, even though they have, their fair share of woes throughout their 9 wins. Another, immaculate win that I don't know how it happened, but here we are with the 9-0 Chiefs.
I feel like 4-1 to win the Super Bowl is still kind of juicy on them. I understand the way it's looked. I get that. And we were talking about it yesterday. Just if you were given same odds, say, take odds out, are you still going chalk Chiefs to win the Super Bowl? For me, I am. They're the team until they're proven otherwise. So obvious inner circle, but to me, even the way it's looked, I think people are still looking for the juicy, like, oh, how about somebody else? you get in a playoff game, you go against Mahomes, that defense, that pedigree, you're feeling like a fool when you bet the other side still.
Yep. No, nothing else to add. No notes. I think we have to obviously hope for better offense from the Chiefs, but they're just the most purebred contender in the league, even with some of their offensive woes. All right, this is an interesting one. The Los Angeles Chargers, they're currently 6-3. They currently sit in that second wild card spot. They've been playing good football. They're not scoring a ton of points, but they're not giving up any. Their defense has been fantastic. They have the least amount of points given up in the NFL this year. Cody, where do you place the Chargers, though?
They're outer circle. They can't be put into it this quickly. But I will say, I don't know that this is going to be the coach of the year, but to me, this is the most impressive coaching performance in the league this year. What Jim Harbaugh has done to change the culture in one offseason and one season, to form an identity, and I was saying it to Sean on last Sunday's pod, how impressed I am with him and how he, in like a week, maybe two, like flipped my mind on who the Chargers were. Just want to give the kudos to them, but I do have them just on the outer circle.
I'm going to go ahead and say this, Cody. I have them as my first outer circle team. I think the Chargers, I'm 1 or 2 weeks away from putting them in the inner circle. I'm a big win for the Chargers and maybe a little offensive explosion away from putting them right in there with the rest of the AFC, with the Buffalo Bills, with the Baltimore Ravens. They have a tough game this week against the Bengals, prime time Sunday night.
Oh, what a game! Wow,
and that's a game. A clash of styles as well, Cody. You know, we talked a lot about styles so far this week. Chargers are going to try to control the ball, play great defense, and they're not trying to win a shootout. The Bengals don't control the ball, don't play great defense, and try to win a shootout. So what's going to give with those two teams? I can't wait to find out. That is a Sunday night football game that I'm jacked up for. That's a type of football game that I'm ready to watch, first play to the last whistle. So I think if they go ahead and beat the Bengals on Sunday and then even just play a real competitive game against the Ravens in 2 weeks from now, we're talking about an inner circle Chargers team. I'm almost ready to put them in, but they have 2 big tests coming up.
Wow. I mean, Chargers playing for a little bit of validity, I feel like, if they beat the Bengals Sunday night football and the Bengals for their literal playoff lives. That's an awesome matchup.
Yeah, that's where the schedulers did a good job, right? Yeah. When the Jets come up back on prime time in a couple weeks, and we're like, oh my God, again?
How quickly I just went from, man, I love football. I'm so excited for this Sunday again. I can't wait.
It happens that quick. So I'm happy to put the Chargers at the top of the outer, but they got a little bit to prove and a big game coming up. All right, Denver Broncos. They're 5-5. Are they truly in the outer circle of contenders, Cody? Would you even consider them on the same level as the Steelers and the Texans and the Chargers, or do you think they're on the top of the out?
I think it almost diminishes what the second tier is if you have Denver in there. And it's not like such a slight to Denver to say that they're an awful team, but the other teams, the Chargers, the Texans, the Steelers, the Bengals that we're talking about in that level, in that second tier is like, yeah, I would be surprised if they come out of the AFC, but you want to talk about the Broncos coming out of the AFC, we're talking downright shocked. Like, what happened? Was there an atomic bomb dropped in the United States and Denver made it out? Like, what went wrong for them to make it through? So they're in a different tier, and I think not only are they not in the inner circle, not in the outer circle, the 8th seed, and just outside of the playoffs when it's all said and done. I think I'm talking myself into Bengals plus 130 to make the playoffs and steal that last spot from them.
The odds would agree with you, because if you look at the AFC champion odds, you have, I mentioned already the Steelers being 4th at plus 1,200 after the jump from the Bills. Then you got Texans, Chargers plus 1,400, plus 1,500, Bengals plus 2,000, then boom, plus 3,500 for the Broncos. I do not see a world where the Broncos are even playing in an AFC title game, let alone in the Super Bowl. So I'm with you. As good of a story as they've been, as competitive as they are, as Bo Nix looks like at least a serviceable quarterback to get the job done here, if I would be utterly shocked to see them make a run in the playoffs. So they're at the top of the out tier for me as well. The Raiders, they're out.
You're out.
The Raiders, well, better luck next year, brother.
Yeah,
all right.
more fun to say than they are a good football team.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that does the AFC. to quickly recap before we go through the NFC here, the inner circle, we got 3 teams: Chiefs,
Yep.
Bills, Ravens. Outer circle, we got the Chargers, Steelers, Bengals, and Texans. Everybody else is out. So let's run through the NFC now very quickly here, Cody, as we just did with the AFC. We'll start in the NFC East. Currently in first place, the Philadelphia Eagles, Cody. They've been playing better football. Are they in the inner circle of contenders?
Can I whisper this one? Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
they are. Don't tell my friends I said that.
They super are, Cody.
Yeah.
They really are. They've won 5 in a row. They're playing great ball.
If Nick Sirianni doesn't screw it up and get like too smart for himself and just go like, well, the way things go wrong for the Eagles is that, or that they're down early and Jalen Hurts is a straight up drop back passer. But if they can control the line of scrimmage the way they have weapons. Saquon was a piece for them that made so much sense to bring in and pay the money, and it's paying dividends. They are firmly inside the NFC's inner circle.
Firmly. It's one of those things that I think football fans were like, yeah, but I don't know. Sirianni's kind of a jerk, and his Hurts really that good. Yeah, they're that good. They are. You got A.J. Brown healthy again. Devontae Smith's been hit or miss, but he's still a good player. Goddard's playing football. He's healthy. You just can't take it away from them right now. And frankly, they're not giving up a ton of points either. They're on par with the likes of the Chiefs on points allowed this year, right? So they're playing great ball, and they won 5 in a row.
Yep.
And if you look at the odds, it's the same thing. They currently have the second best odds in the NFC to come out of the NFC. So easy one for me in the inner circle. The Washington Commanders, however, they had a tough loss against Pittsburgh. They hung in there. They got the best defense they played all year long, and Jaden Daniels didn't look as good. The offense didn't look as good, but they're still hanging around. I still think they're a playoff team, but are they an inner circle contender or an outer circle, or do you think they really don't have a chance to win the NFC?
It's one of the first two. I would give them a slight chance because I think Jaden is that legit. And even though they lost that game to the Steelers and even the Ravens weeks back where they fought them tooth and nail to the very end, I mean, you want to talk about a game of inches. If that play gets called a first down on the field, I think it stands that way too. And you're talking about a field goal and a different conversation for the Commanders. So I don't want to just play the results and say that now they're a different team. I think they're pretty legit. The defense is coming together better. You have a defensive-minded coach in Dan Quinn, who's probably right up there with Jim Harbaugh in my eyes for Coach of the Year. They're probably – I might have to circle back to this one to use a mine and Sean's term when we're doing the pool picks. They're right on the edge because the NFC doesn't have a ton of true contenders. The Commanders are probably – all right, I'm going to say it now. They are the top of the – second tier to me. They're the top of the outer circle. I think that's where I'm going to have them.
I think that's the right place. You kind of can't go a different direction there because you have to keep them in. And frankly, if you look at their schedule here, after this Eagles game on Thursday night, which is another one we're very excited for, Cowboys, Titans, Saints, Eagles again, tough. Falcons, not easy. And Cowboys again. Who's playing quarterback for the Cowboys in week 18? I don't know. Probably not Dak Prescott, if you ask me. Why would they play him?
Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, right. So the Commanders, even if they lose to the Eagles here and all of a sudden are 7-4 and they went from 7-2 to 7-4 in a blink of an eye, you're looking at a team that can put up crooked numbers the rest of the way through against all the teams except the Eagles again, right? So this team is going to be in it, and the odds agree with that. They're plus 1,100 to win the NFC, and that puts them squarely in the outer circle, but not good enough to be in the inner circle just yet. All right. The Cowboys, they're out. Can we put the Cowboys out of their misery?
Oh, yeah. They're as dead as the Giants.
And I feel stupid, Cody, because I picked them to win the NFC East. I stand by my reasoning behind it. This team has been a regular season juggernaut. But all the people, you included, who said that the preseason drama and the BS with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott was going to wear on them, it absolutely did. Having no running backs absolutely hurts them. The offensive line not being a juggernaut anymore absolutely hurts them. Micah Parsons injured. DeMarcus Lawrence in and out. Like, year from hell for the Cowboys. I don't know what the hell Jerry Jones is doing, and I don't know what the hell CeeDee Lamb is going to be able to do for my fantasy team, but we could put them out of their misery, and they're out. They're done for the year, right?
Yes. Done.
Cool. Giants. Next question. All right. On to the NFC North here. This one's probably as easy as it comes. the Detroit Lions, the only question is, are they the number one contender in the
I think
NFC?
they have to be the favorite. As gross as that game was, there is an impressive factor to it of that things did not go well. Things looked ugly. Obviously, 5 picks, but they weren't ahead and they couldn't play with the lead. And when they play with the lead, forget about it. But the ability for Jared Goff to just brush all of that off and to just keep leading that comeback and just fight and fight and fight, it showed something about the Lions, even though I was still a little nervous seeing it. It showed something that, hey, it doesn't always have to be perfect and they can still win a game. And that was against a good Texans team. So that was pretty impressive to me. Number one.
Agreed. No notes. All right. Minnesota Vikings. They are a 7-win team right now, 7-2. They're playing a little bit close to the chest lately. Offense isn't offensing as much as it was. But where do we have the Minnesota Vikings here in the NFC?
The Minnesota Vikings are the only team I know that can time travel. This is the 2022 Minnesota Vikings sitting at 7-2, but who believes in them? Who believes in what Sam Darnold has looked like the past couple weeks? They very easily could have lost to the Jaguars. I had them -4.5 in our pool. Beyond lucky to have walked away with a cover in that one because they didn't score a touchdown. Darnold was throwing end zone picks, red zone picks. Defense is good, solid team, but in no way do I think that they're inner circle. I think they're probably closer to the bottom of the outer circle and even out altogether than they are to the inner circle, even though they'll be a playoff team.
And yeah, they're going to be a playoff team. They have coming up the Titans, Bears, Cardinals, which we'll get to, Falcons, which we'll get to, Bears again, Seahawks, Packers, Lions. Now, they are a team that could probably lose to anybody there but the Titans. I don't expect the Titans to beat them. They could, I mean, the Bears have been bad.
Yeah.
They can lose to the Bears. They can lose to the Cardinals. They're teetering. I think what you feel good about is their defense is playing legit football. And to me, that keeps them in the outer circle. Not on the inner circle, but definitely on the end of the outer. All right, Green Bay Packers, Cody. They are 6-3. A little bit of a mixed bag with the Packers this year. I think coming into the year, a lot of people thought they could be an inner circle team. To me, I do not think that they're there yet. I don't think they're trustworthy enough on both sides of the ball. And they've won a lot of games helpful of the turnovers they're creating on defense, which is not always reliable. What do you think about the Packers?
Even in the short breakdown, I went back and forth in my head as to what they could really be because I really love LaFleur. I think he's an excellent coach. They have pretty good weapons. Love has shown that he has the ability in those big moments, big spots last year. He showed it, but he hasn't enough in the injuries and the lack of continuity this year keeps them in the outer circle for me, and they're probably in the middle of the outer circle. I don't think they're even knocking on the door of the inner circle at this point.
And the odds right now have the Vikings, Packers, and Commanders neck and neck, right? So the Vikings and the Packers are tied for the fourth best odds.
I would have the Vikings as the bottom of those three, and the Packers and the Commanders pick your poison.
Right. I agree. I think right now it's going to show the NFC is deeper. The AFC has better at the top, and that's kind of where we sit today. So I'm in agreement with you on the Packers. It would be disrespectful to put them out. They got too much juice, but very much overrating them if you put them on the inner circle. All right, next team is the Chicago Bears. Are we putting them out? Are they down and out? They were outer contenders for a little bit there, Cody. Are they done?
They're so poorly coached. They're so dumb. I don't know how else to say it. And now they look like they're starting to quit. I mean, 19-3 against the Patriots, pretty much lifeless. Barely saw the game on Red Zone. I think that they're done. I think that they're out. And I listen to Pardon My Take all the time. Big Cat keeps saying how they will not fire their coach mid-season, which I think a lot of us think that they should, but they never do it. They've never done it in their 100-plus year franchise history. They don't seem like they're going to do it now. And as long as that regime is there, the fear is more than this year with them. It's what are you doing to Caleb Williams? Like, are you going to screw this guy up? This not sure thing, but I mean, as talented as a guy as we've seen, are they going to screw him up? Like, that's my question with the Bears. Not it's beyond this year at this point. I think this year's done though.
And frankly, this stretch they just lost 3 in a row, Commanders, Cardinals, Patriots. This was their last stretch to make their playoff hopes realistic because now they have Packers, Vikings, Lions, Niners. Vikings, Lions. Jesus Christ. Seahawks and
Wow.
Packers to end it
All
out.
the division games seem to be like, has it always been that way? Am I just being foolish? Like that they're stacked at the end of the year this way? Obviously, they leave some, but
No, a lot of times it would be like one early middle and then one late. Like that's kind of the regular run of division games. But no, it seems like there's a lot stacked at the end here. But they got a gauntlet coming up. And for them, it's just about, saving face and saving Caleb Williams from being, torn forever after a terrible rookie year. So they're out. But we move on to the NFC South. Cody, do we have any contenders, inner or outer, in the NFC South? I'm just going to ask you like that because I know for a fact we're putting the Saints out and we're putting the Panthers out. But are the Falcons or Buccaneers, for your opinion, even in one of the circles?
So I'll answer that question by saying no, but I'm going to rebuttal with a question for you. Is it possible that the Bucs sneaking in would be a scarier team to play? More healthy, obviously. Mike Evans coming back. Tristan Wirfs just went out, but he would be back by then. Would they be a more feared team than the Kirk Cousins Falcons?
It's such a loaded question because in vintage Kirk Cousins form, where do you think Kirk Cousins ranks right now in yards in the league right now?
I want to say 15.
Guess where he is?
Is it 15?
No, he's third. Guess where he ranks? Guess where he ranks in touchdowns thrown this year?
Fourth.
Yeah. And guess what? Bijan Robinson looks really good.
Yeah, for sure. Drake London's a legit weapon, and Kyle Pitts has been emerging and back. But
and all these weapons that we dreamed about in fantasy football and everything, Cody, they're getting touches. They're doing stuff. Like Kirk Cousins has raised the floor of this team. And a lot of people are really excited about what Baker Mayfield is doing. And he's fun to watch. And I don't know how he didn't get sacked like 14 more times in the game this week against the Niners, where the Niners outgained them, outplayed them, and it still came down to the wire. The Falcons are not bad. The Falcons are not bad.
They did lose to the Saints, but
they did just lose to the Saints. But before that, they beat the Cowboys. They beat the Buccaneers. They already beat the Buccaneers twice this year, Cody. Like they are in line to be a playoff team. And right now the odds reflect properly. Like the Buccaneers are plus 4,500. The Falcons are plus 2,200. I think that's mostly because the Falcons have the inside track to make the playoffs. So to me, I understand where you're coming from, but I actually think that's not giving a fair shot to the Falcons. I know they can lose to anybody, but they can also hang in a few different styles of football.
I think in a world where Chris Godwin was healthy,
Correct.
I would have a different thought and realistically be like, well, like I would put it this way: if they were to somehow play a 1-game playoff to go to the, to make the playoffs, and if that was played in a neutral site and these teams were healthy, I would probably have the Bucs favored by like 1.5, right? Like in that dreamt up scenario of mine, but that's not the scenario. That's not the case. That's not realistic. And so the Falcons out of the inner circle, middle of the second tier. But I don't know. I still think the Bucs are done. It's the Falcons and that's it. Damn it. The Bucs are
So you think the
done.
Bucs are done. So let me give you something else here real quick, Cody. Hold on real quick. Because guess what the Buccaneers got coming up on their schedule here? Because they've lost 4 in a row, Cody.
Yes.
They've lost to the Ravens, the
Talk
Falcons,
me into
like
it,
I mentioned.
please.
I'm gonna see what happens here. Because I think, and here's gonna be my final take here. They've lost to the Ravens, the Falcons, which we just mentioned, the Chiefs, and the 49ers, right? Outside that Falcons game, they're not expected to really win any of those, and they played their ass off in all of them. All of them.
Gauntlet.
Right? So now they got a bye, and we look here at Giants, at Panthers.
I'm going to that game.
Nice. You get to root for Baker.
I will be. Gambling on it too, probably. Betting on the Bucs. I might wear a Bucs jersey. I don't know.
So in the world of away games, you get the Giants and the Panthers away. That's a win. Then you get the Raiders. Tough game against the Chargers, at Dallas, and then Panthers and Saints again. So in the world of saying the Falcons are this and the Buccaneers are that, I think they both might be on the outside of that outer thing, or I shouldn't say outside, at the bottom of that outer circle, because there's a real path for this Buccaneers team to win 6 of their last 8?
That's what it would take, right, to make the playoffs, to win the division. You'd think only one team comes out of the South, most likely, with the way the North is and the emergence, I suppose, of the West, which we'll get to. But I mean, I'm I've been backing Baker weekly as a dog in those games. I mean, you know how I feel about him. I hope that they have a chance. And I did not quite realize what a gauntlet they had gone through. You just wish that they could have gotten one of those games, at least one of them. It feels like they deserved it, but that's not the way the world works.
Yeah, correct. Agreed. But I think I'm happy to put the Falcons and Bucks both in the very bottom of the outer circle because
Yep,
I
I'm
think
fair
there's
with
too much frisk
Yeah,
in both
you'd
of
have
those
like
teams.
a Packers above both of them, right? They play against each other in the playoffs. You'd take the Packers, at least as a
Even
favorite.
the Vikings. I think even the Vikings above both of them for now. But I
Hmm.
think Vikings, Falcons, Bucks are a little more similar than the records indicate and as recency
Commanders
bias
right in that.
indicates.
That's a good tier of. Those are teams to me that are like all stuck together.
Agreed. All right, on to the NFC West, which is a very tricky division here, Cody.
Talk
We'll
about
start off with
stuck.
the number one team, the Arizona Cardinals, winning 4 straight games. They're 6-4. Kyler Murray is looking good and healthy. Are the Cardinals a contender of any sort?
Not a real contender, not a Super Bowl contender, not come out of the NFC contender. But could they win the division? I think that's now a realistic thought, and I have been proven wrong. I think 3 weeks in a row, at least twice in a row, I bet against the Cardinals last week yesterday, whatever day it is. I took the Jets in that atrocity, so that was obviously the wrong pick. And they, 4 in a row, and they look legit in all of it. They look like they have a legitimate defense. Kyler doesn't have to seemingly do everything. James Conner has been unbelievable. I mean, what an awesome story. He every year continues to prove that he is like a top end running back. He's not just a formidable running back. He's like a legit weapon. And you keep thinking he must be too old, but he's not. And he just keeps showing it and keep proving it. And they've got weapons, Marvin Harrison Jr., even though he hasn't been as focal in the offense, he's still a 5-touchdown guy. Trey McBride has been a receptions and yards monster. He's been the security blanket. He is a legit weapon as well. And the Cardinals, I think you can say it as confidently as anyone, right? That I'm sure the odds say the Niners still, but
Yeah.
you're watching the Niners and you're watching the Cardinals. I think they're about even. And if the odds are going to say that the Niners are, say, minus 200, I don't think that's it, but say minus 150 and the Cardinals are 2-1, I think you're about the same type of team. I'd take the value pick right there in the Cardinals.
The Cardinals are favored to win the NFC West right now, Cody.
Okay.
They're plus 115 to the Niners, plus 135. And again, it comes down to who they have left on the schedule. They have a chance that after this bye in week 11, they have a chance to put the Seahawks to bed. They play the Seahawks twice in the next 4 weeks. They have the Vikings, the Patriots, and the poor punching bag Panthers. They got real games. And then we're looking at week 18, Cardinals, Niners. That could be a game for the division because I can see the Cardinals going out here and winning some games, but they're also a team that can go lose to the Seahawks, right? So they are definitely not inner contender. Yep. I would put them right in that bunch. Commanders, Falcons, Bucks, Vikings, Cardinals. They're right there.
I think the hardest question is how to differentiate that bunch. How do you, who's the team that's knocking on the door truly? Because Commanders, we've gone through it all. They're all same type of team to me.
When it comes to the outer circle, to me, can they win a playoff game? Can they go in and beat the Eagles? Can they beat the Lions? Can they beat the Niners in one playoff game? And if you're ranking that, I think you're looking at the Packers, the Commanders, and then again, if the Cardinals keep playing well, maybe it is the Cardinals as the next best option there. Honestly, it really might be. And granted, the Bucks went ahead last year and beat the Eagles in the playoffs. So, for an outer contender, I think all these teams rightfully deserve to be considered an outer contender. Whereas all of a sudden, you upset the Eagles or the Niners in week 1 of the playoffs, and you're like, all right, now they have a decent matchup against, whoever it may be, right? Like that, maybe they're okay. Maybe they can make the Super Bowl. Like it's crazy, but I think these teams all deserve the outer circle. And that brings us to the 49ers, Cody. Are we happy to say that the 49ers are an inner circle team, or do you need to see their health and their, reputation of an offense come to fruition?
I've got my top outer circle team, I think, because the highest ceiling is the Niners, but they have not proven that they are the same team of years past. And here's the craziest part. I think Brock Purdy's playing about as well as I've seen. I thought he was awesome on Sunday. One of the quarterbacks that is anticipating and taking risks, and he's making the off-platform throws while he's also making the system throws. He is doing it all, but no more Brandon Ayuk for this year. They are just getting McCaffrey back, so we'll see how that changes things for them. Obviously, a huge weapon who's going to only get better, hopefully, and look better throughout the year. They have the highest ceiling of those outer teams, but to put them on par with the Eagles and the Lions today, obviously we're looking forward, but I can't do that just yet. It's easy to say because it's the Niners, but they just haven't shown it. I don't think I want to put my money on them. So I have them as probably the most frisky or the top of the second tier outer circle teams.
And the reason I think that's fair is because their defense is not the same. I agree. Watching Purdy this year, I've been super impressed. Like, he is not one of the quarterbacks I'm complaining about. He is running for his life occasionally, but making plays while doing so. With McCaffrey back, you expect the offense to be even more efficient. I said this why I picked them on Sunday here. Even without McCaffrey, they've been number 2 in yards per play this year. So they're doing something right on offense. Where they're not doing something right is on defense, where typically you're looking at them as a rock solid defense. No, not this year, Cody. They are about average on defense this year. If you look at EPA per play from a defensive perspective, they're similar to the Colts and the Dolphins and the Saints. Like, they're worse than the Texans on defense so far this year, and the Bills and the Packers. And granted, sometimes that comes down to turnovers and things of that nature. But you look at a team like the Vikings, where the Vikings don't sniff what the Niners are doing on offense. The Vikings have the best defensive EPA per play in the league, right? So where's their strong suit? The Niners aren't the Ravens, Commanders, Bills on offense, and they're no longer the Niners on defense. So yeah, I think putting them at the top of the outer is fair, despite the odds having them at plus 475 to win the NFC, which is a great deal higher than the rest of their outer circle compatriots.
It's a weird year for the Niners.
Weird
but
year.
it's not a year to just blindly bet on them, and I think that's my point.
At least not yet. And I think this is one where it's like, all right, they're at the top of the outer circle right now. They're the easiest one to jump into the inner circle.
Yeah, they have the highest ceiling of the outer circle, and that's how I'd put it.
Yeah. Okay. Rams.
The Rams. They broke my heart on Monday night. They were obviously on the up and up. You got Cooper Kupp back. You got Puka Nacua back. Seemed like maybe they could sneak all the way up for the division. Not to say that they're completely out, but they now have a real battle because of all those teams that we mentioned. It's going to be hard to make the playoffs in the wild card in the NFC. We talked about how the Bengals has a plus 130 in the AFC. They're really only contending with the Broncos, right? The NFC is much more middle of the pack. Top heavy in the AFC, middle of the pack is tough in the NFC, and the Rams are stuck right in the middle of it. And of course, I've got them this year at plus 100 to make the playoffs. And after that loss with Miami, I feel really bad about it, and it's especially bad because of everything you're looking around at. They're the same record as the Bears. That's tough.
Everything just looks hard for them right now. The defense is not great. They had some decent defensive line movement against the Dolphins on Monday night, but the offense, it just looks difficult. Like, with Matt Stafford, typically I'm expecting them putting up points, and they couldn't get across the end zone on Monday night, man. It was brutal to watch. And when they're finding Cooper Kupp and they're finding Puka Nacua, it's nice, and they're household names that we all root for because we have them on our fantasy teams, but it hasn't been easy going for the Rams offensively, even in some of their wins, right? It's just been a little bit tougher for them to get that ball moving, and they have a couple really difficult games left in the schedule. Yeah, they have the Patriots and the Saints, but they got the Eagles, the Bills, the Niners, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks still all remaining on their schedule. So I think they're out, even though I'm rooting for them to get in, because they're going to be really difficult to even make the freaking playoffs.
Yep, that's exactly where I'm at, Pete. I think exact spot.
I think the Bucs have an easier path to the playoffs than the Rams do. So, and right now the Rams have a better record, but that's not what it's going to take here. And last but not least, the Seattle Seahawks.
I'm out on them.
Out. Too many injuries.
Too much. Yep.
Just
too many teams above them.
Yeah. Not enough juice offensively or defensively.
Are they playing the Niners this week?
I'll tell you in 2 seconds. They have the Niners this week, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a huge game. I mean, the Niners can step on their throat, 4-6 Seattle. Good luck. and the Niners 6-4, all of a sudden, people will be way back in on them. So
yeah, and it's just tough because it's like you look at the Seahawks or the Rams for that matter, and if they go up head to head against a Vikings, a Packers, a Commanders, a Cardinals, you're like, all right, the Rams or Seahawks can win that game, but do you expect them to win multiple of those games in a row? And you just don't. You can't say it with confidence right now. So they're out.
Yeah, I agree. I just there's too much in that middle pack, and they're just not one of those teams that I assume is going to be able to break through that and get out of that grouping.
All right, let's do the circle roundup for the NFC. Inner circle, only the Lions and Eagles for Cody and I. Outer circle. That's
fair, right?
I think so too. It's quite large, the outer circle. I mean, listen, if you wanted to be cookie cutter and play it safe, you put the Niners in the inner circle, but they haven't proved it yet. They have to prove it. You and I are not going to sit here and go, oh no, they still don't deserve it if they go out and dominate the next couple of weeks, right? We're going to put them right in there with the Lions and Eagles. Right. But to this point, to what they even have now moving forward with the health-wise stuff, you just can't put them in there yet. You can't do it yet. So outer circle is Niners, Commanders, Packers, Vikings, Cardinals, Falcons, and Bucks. I put them both in there.
But that's how it should be. That's the landscape of the league. It's that the NFC is not as top heavy, but have a lot of pretty good teams. And the AFC is super top heavy. Your three that you mentioned in that circle are probably or potentially the three best teams in football. You want to throw the Lions in there, maybe the Eagles, but I think you could argue that those three teams, Ravens, Chiefs, and Bills, maybe the Bills are below, but best three teams in football. You can make that argument. And then
I think you could make the argument that you put the Eagles in the outer circle and just have it Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Lions as the only inner circle teams.
As a whole?
Yeah.
That's fair. I think that's fair to say.
Just because the Eagles haven't been super trustworthy despite the win streak and the talent.
Their most impressive win was against the Bengals, for sure. The beatdown of the Bengals was pretty damn impressive, and I think that put me and a lot of people on notice that, okay, they're coming.
All right, Cody, how was that 40-minute podcast?
I took the over. It's the only bet I can hit. Taking the over in our podcast time. 7:30 finish. It's 8:05, guys.
My wife and your wife alike were like, yeah, you guys are doing it early tonight. That's so nice. It's going to be a quick one, you said? How quick? Oh, yeah, we're shooting for 40 minutes. Yeah,
babe, I'll be back in later. We'll finish that episode right afterwards. She's probably asleep.
Goddamn. One day, Cody, we'll hit the under on an episode. One day.
It's too much fun to stop.
Good stuff, brother. All right, that's all we got right here. I was hoping to do a little Knicks talk before this podcast, but now we're at an hour and 10, so I'm going to have to hold some Knicks talk until later in the week, but that's fine. They got games coming up. I don't know where they at against the Sixers right now.
It's 29-25 as OG Anunoby hammers one home. Knicks are up. Second quarter.
There we go. All right. We'll talk Knicks another day this week, but that's it. Cody O'Connor, Pete Kennedy. If you didn't hear my episode with Al Cintron from last week, which I think was a good one.
Highly recommend.
Especially the first 20 minutes or so is about the Mets and the Yankees and stuff. So that's evergreen. That's not old yet. Obviously, the rest of it's kind of talking about week 10, but go check that out. It's good stuff. All right. So that's all we got. Subway Sports Talk. We'll talk to y'all soon, later this week to be precise, and more picks coming in later in the week as well. That's all we got. Subway Sports Talk for Cody O'Connor. I'm Pete Kennedy. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.